The Roman Empire, at the height of its power, sprawls across continents, its legions marching from the windswept shores of Britannia to the deserts of Egypt, its cities teeming with wealth and culture. To the outside world, it seems indestructible, but beneath the golden facade lies a sinister secret. A cabal of the empire's wealthiest and most powerful families, known as the Veiled Senate, has quietly taken root, slowly steering the empire toward its inevitable collapse. The Veiled Senate operates in the shadows, their motives masked behind the semblance of public service. They are not simply politicians, they are puppet masters, pulling the strings behind emperors, generals, and senators. The members of this elite group are bound by a common goal: to control the immense wealth that flows through the veins of Rome. They seek not just political power, but absolute control of the empire's resources, gold, land, and influence, that have made Rome an unstoppable force. At first, their efforts are subtle. Their influence spreads through bribes, marriages, and clandestine alliances. They push for policies that appear innocuous, but in reality weaken Rome's military and economic stability. Senators and generals, once loyal to the emperor, begin to betray Rome's interests, aligning themselves with the Veiled Senate's growing power. What begins as whispers in the Senate chambers soon turns into a chorus of manipulation, as each move is calculated to ensure that those in power are loyal to the Senate's hidden agenda. The first major blow to the empire comes in the form of a series of reckless military campaigns encouraged by the Veiled Senate. These campaigns are meant not to expand Rome's territory, but to bleed the empire dry, weakening its military strength and draining its coffers. The Senate's puppet generals, eager to please their unseen masters, engage in fruitless wars against minor tribes and distant peoples, wars that are expensive and ultimately unimportant. They sow discord within the legions and sabotage Rome's defenses, all while making it appear as though they are protecting the empire's borders. But the true genius of the Veiled Senate lies in their ability to sow chaos from within, to create civil unrest and instability without ever appearing as the cause. They infiltrate the empire's highest offices, ensuring that anyone who could potentially disrupt their plans, whether a soldier, senator, or even an emperor, becomes a pawn in their elaborate game. They manipulate public opinion, spreading rumors of corruption, incompetence, and betrayal throughout the empire. As trust erodes among the leadership, the Senate's power grows. In this opening chapter, the audience sees the empire's leaders struggling to maintain control, unaware of the insidious plot unfolding beneath them. Emperors like Honorius and Valentinian II are surrounded by scheming officials and generals, but none suspect the true power behind their dwindling reign. The Veiled Senate moves quietly and deliberately, staying out of the public eye, yet their influence spreads like a disease throughout Rome. They know that the best way to destroy an empire is not through foreign invasion, but from within, where the greatest enemy is the one who appears to be an ally. As the chapter closes, we witness the moment when the first cracks in the empire's facade appear, a fleeting glimpse of the coming storm. The audience is left wondering who are the true masterminds behind Rome's slow demise, and how long can they continue to operate in the shadows before their machinations come to light? Emperor Valentinian I, once a strong and admired leader, now finds himself increasingly isolated in the imperial palace. The mighty Roman Empire, at the peak of its dominance, seems to be unraveling in ways he cannot control. What was once a unified empire is now a fractious land, riddled with corruption, power struggles, and betrayal. Valentinian's initial confidence falters as the weight of leadership presses down on him, compounded by his growing distrust of those closest to him. The Senate, once a seat of Roman strength, has become a nest of vipers, with the Veiled Senate secretly pulling the strings. Valentinian, whose strength was always in his ability to maintain a firm hand over the empire, begins to sense that something is wrong. But his mind is clouded by his dependence on his inner circle, generals, advisors, and imperial officials, many of whom are secretly aligned with the Veiled Senate. His closest confidants, men like the ambitious General Petronius and the scheming prefect of the guard, Lucius Fabius, seem to be working tirelessly on his behalf, but their true loyalties lie elsewhere. The first sign of betrayal is subtle. Valentinian receives reports of increasing unrest in the provinces, of legions reluctant to follow orders, and of border regions left vulnerable due to insufficient military presence. While these issues seem like simple mismanagement, they are the product of deliberate sabotage. Secretly, the Veiled Senate has manipulated military appointments and redirected funds, ensuring that key positions in the military and government are held by their agents, undermining Valentinian's authority. An old ally, General Maximus, whose loyalty once seemed unshakable, is also showing signs of discontent. Valentinian's attempts to meet with Maximus are met with delays, and rumors swirl that the general has been seen in secret meetings with the Senate. Valentinian, unable to reconcile the truth, begins to question the sincerity of those around him, suspecting that the emperor's own officers are no longer loyal to him. But his suspicions are dismissed as paranoia by his advisors, further isolating him. As Valentinian struggles to maintain control, his internal enemies grow bolder. The Veiled Senate's influence continues to expand, manipulating the emperor's decisions through an intricate web of deceit. When Valentinian calls a meeting with his most trusted generals to discuss the empire's dire state, he is confronted with open defiance. Maximus, once his loyal ally, publicly challenges his leadership, calling for reforms and accusing the emperor of incompetence. Valentinian's authority is publicly questioned, and whispers of his instability begin to spread throughout the empire. Desperate, Valentinian seeks counsel from his wife, Empress Eudoxia, whose political insight has always been sharp. Yet even she, deeply loyal to her husband, cannot offer him the answers he so desperately needs. She, too, has begun to notice the subtle changes in the court, how certain senators and officers have begun to act with increasing confidence, as if they know the emperor is losing his grip. Valentinian's isolation deepens as he realizes that even those he thought were his closest allies are playing a dangerous game. One evening, Valentinian receives a mysterious letter, a cryptic message that hints at a deeper conspiracy within the Senate and the imperial court. The letter, written in a secret code only known to a select few, accuses his inner circle of betraying him in the name of a greater cause, one that involves reshaping the very structure of the empire. The emperor's suspicion grows, but his options are limited. He must navigate a sea of lies, half-truths, and subterfuge, knowing that the very people he's relied upon may be the ones responsible for his downfall. In the final moments of this chapter, Valentinian, torn between his duty and his desire to trust the few he has left, decides to confront his inner circle. But it is too late. The Veiled Senate's agents have already moved their pieces into place. At the meeting, Valentinian is presented with an ultimatum by General Maximus: either step down or face a rebellion that could tear the empire apart. The emperor's once unshakable confidence falters, and the audience is left wondering, will Valentinian fight to the bitter end, or has his time as ruler of Rome come to a close? General Maximus had long been a pillar of Roman military strength. His loyalty to the emperor was unquestioned, and his victories on the battlefield were legendary. However, behind the ironclad exterior of the revered general lies a man torn between honor and the growing realization that the very empire he fought to protect is in its death throes. Maximus is a man caught between two worlds, his duty to Rome and his increasingly uncertain future, as the tides of power shift beneath him. The Veiled Senate, in their relentless pursuit of power, see Maximus as both a weapon and a pawn. They recognize his military genius and understand that he is a key player in their scheme to bring down the empire from within. But they also know that Maximus's loyalty to Valentinian could be a liability. As the Senate sows discord, they begin to manipulate Maximus, offering him the opportunity to save the empire from the chaos unfolding under the emperor's weak rule. The general, frustrated by the emperor's indecision and the growing instability, is drawn into the Senate's web of lies and promises. Maximus begins to question his role in the empire. He watches as Valentinian, once a strong and decisive leader, falters, succumbing to the manipulations of his inner circle. The empire's borders grow vulnerable, and its enemies, the Visigoths, the Vandals, and internal dissenters, are closing in. The Senate's influence continues to erode Valentinian's authority, leaving Maximus to wonder whether it is time to take action. When whispers of rebellion begin to circulate, Maximus sees an opportunity. If he rises against Valentinian, he can rally the military, restore order, and ensure Rome's survival. At least that is the narrative the Senate crafts for him. Unbeknownst to Maximus, his rebellion is exactly what the veiled Senate wants. They've carefully orchestrated a series of events, covert meetings with disgruntled generals, promises of power to those who support him, and an ever-present push to make him believe that Valentinian's leadership is no longer viable. The Senate convinces Maximus that the only way to restore Rome's honor and stability is to overthrow the emperor, positioning him as a hero for the empire's future. The plan is simple. Let Maximus lead the rebellion, gain control of the military, and then watch as Rome's core is weakened beyond repair. As Maximus gathers his forces, he becomes more convinced that his actions are righteous. He begins to see himself as the last hope for Rome, a leader who will bring the empire back from the brink of collapse. His decision to challenge Valentinian is framed as a noble one, a necessary rebellion against a dying regime. Maximus, a man of integrity, believes he is saving Rome from its internal rot. But what he doesn't realize is that he is merely playing into the hands of the Senate, further destabilizing an empire already on the edge of destruction. The rebellion, led by Maximus, is swift and decisive. Key military leaders, seduced by the Senate's promises of power and reward, rally to his cause. They march on the imperial palace, and Valentinian, weakened and isolated, is left with little choice but to confront the man who was once his closest ally. A bloody confrontation ensues, but the emperor's forces are divided. The legions loyal to Valentinian are outmatched by the forces under Maximus's command, and the rebellion is on the cusp of victory. However, even in the midst of battle, Maximus's loyalty is tested. As the clash between his forces and the emperor's legions rages, Maximus faces a crucial moment of self-reflection. The Senate's promises of power and glory ring in his ears, but a part of him, his honor, his love for Rome, questions whether this path is truly the right one. The moment of doubt passes, though, and Maximus leads his forces to victory, capturing Valentinian. With Valentinian dethroned, Maximus now stands at the threshold of the highest power in the land. The Senate, delighted by his success, prepares to offer him the throne. But Maximus, a man of duty, struggles with the realization that he may not be the liberator he once thought he was. His rebellion has not been a restoration of the empire. It has been a move that brings him closer to the very forces that seek to control it for their own purposes. The veiled Senate, having used him to weaken Valentinian, now sees him as their next tool in their greater plan to seize control of Rome. In the final moments of this chapter, Maximus stands at the precipice of ultimate power. His forces have crushed Valentinian's loyalists, and the empire is on the brink of a new chapter. But as he surveys the battlefield, a seed of doubt begins to take root. Is he truly a hero, or has he simply been a pawn in the Senate's grand design? The audience is left questioning whether Maximus can ever escape the web of manipulation he has fallen into, or if his ambition has doomed him to become just another puppet in the Senate's rise to power. Empress Eudoxia stands at the crossroads of power, caught in a whirlwind of love, betrayal, and political ambition. On the surface, she is the epitome of grace and wisdom, the perfect partner to Emperor Valentinian. Her sharp political mind and keen sense of strategy have earned her the respect of Rome's elite. Yet beneath this composed exterior, Eudoxia harbors a deep frustration. The empire, once magnificent, is crumbling, and the man she loves seems incapable of saving it. The constant tension within the imperial court only deepens her sense of isolation. Valentinian, consumed by his paranoia and internal strife, has grown distant from Eudoxia. Their marriage, once built on mutual trust and respect, now feels strained and hollow. Valentinian's inability to deal with the empire's mounting problems leaves Eudoxia in a vulnerable position, one where she is forced to look beyond her husband for answers. As her frustration grows, Eudoxia finds herself drawn into the shadows of Rome's politics, where whispered promises of power and control flicker just beyond reach. One fateful evening, she is approached by a mysterious figure, a masked assassin, whose presence is unsettling yet magnetic. The assassin, cloaked in secrecy, claims to have ties to the Veiled Senate, the very group that has been orchestrating Rome's fall from within. The assassin offers Eudoxia an unprecedented opportunity to seize control of the empire, to remove Valentinian, and to take her place as the ruler of Rome. At first, Eudoxia is skeptical. She has heard rumors of the Senate's machinations, but the idea of betraying her husband, the man she once swore to stand by, seems unimaginable. However, as the assassin reveals more, hints of Valentinian's weakness, the schemes of the Senate, and the growing discontent within the empire, Eudoxia's resolve begins to waver. She is shown a vision of what could be: a new Rome, with her at its helm, unburdened by her husband's faltering leadership. The assassin promises her power beyond anything she has ever known, if she is willing to take the steps necessary to claim it. The idea gnaws at Eudoxia, tempting her with the possibility of reshaping Rome according to her own vision. As the assassin continues to work his dark influence, Eudoxia becomes increasingly convinced that her loyalty to Valentinian may not be enough to save the empire. Rome's future, it seems, rests not with her husband, but with herself. The thought of leading the empire herself, of becoming the first empress to rule in her own right, suddenly feels tantalizing. But her decision is not so simple. Eudoxia is not a woman driven solely by ambition. She loves Valentinian despite his flaws. Her heart is torn between the man she married and the powerful legacy that beckons her. In quiet moments, she wonders whether she is simply being used by the assassin, or whether she truly has the strength to take control of Rome for herself. Yet, as the empire continues its descent into chaos, her resolve hardens. She realizes that for Rome to survive, someone must take charge, and that someone could be her. In the dead of night, Eudoxia meets with the assassin once more. This time, the conversation is less tentative and more certain. She agrees to his plan. With the assassin's help, she will eliminate Valentinian, either by manipulation or, if necessary, through more direct means. She will assume control of the throne and push forward with the Senate's hidden agenda. Her motivations are unclear to her, but one thing is certain. In a world on the brink of collapse, she must act to secure Rome's future, even if it means betraying the man she once loved. The chapters leading up to this point have laid the groundwork for this momentous decision. The emperor, his power slipping away, stands on the precipice of his downfall, while his wife, the empress, stands ready to step into the vacuum left behind. Yet, even as Eudoxia moves closer to her goal, she begins to feel the weight of the choices she is making. Can she truly become the ruler of Rome, or is she simply another player in a game she cannot control? As this chapter ends, the audience is left wondering, will Eudoxia follow through with the assassin's plan and betray her husband, or will her love for Valentinian ultimately sway her decision? The plot to remove the emperor is set in motion, but the consequences of her choices are far from clear. Eudoxia may be on the brink of rewriting history, but in doing so, she risks losing her soul in the process. General Aetius stands as the last unbroken pillar of Roman military might. Revered as the greatest strategist of his time, Aetius is a living legend whose victories in battle are matched only by his unwavering loyalty to the empire. Known for his calm demeanor and tactical brilliance, he has earned the respect of both the emperor and the legions. For Aetius, the survival of Rome is more than a duty. It is a sacred bond, forged through years of service and bloodshed. Yet, as the empire teeters on the brink of collapse, Aetius begins to see the cracks in the foundation. The emperor, Valentinian, is indecisive and weak, consumed by fear and paranoia. His power is eroding, and his court is divided by corruption, infighting, and intrigue. The once mighty Roman legions are stretched thin, battling on multiple fronts, unable to defend the borders from growing threats. Despite his best efforts, Aetius can no longer pretend that the empire is the same. He feels the weight of the crumbling empire pressing down on him, and for the first time, he questions whether his loyalty is misplaced. The Veiled Senate, ever watchful and opportunistic, sees Aetius as both a threat and an opportunity. They know that he is a powerful figure whose influence could either stabilize the empire or lead to its total collapse. As Aetius struggles with his growing doubts, the Senate begins to quietly manipulate the situation, stoking the flames of dissent within the military and convincing Aetius that his loyalty to Valentinian may no longer serve the greater good. In whispered conversations, they paint a grim picture of the emperor's incompetence and promise Aetius the chance to lead a new Rome, one free of Valentinian's failed leadership. At first, Aetius resists. His sense of duty and honor runs deep, and the idea of betraying his emperor fills him with disgust. But as the empire's defenses crumble, and as he watches Rome's enemies gather on the horizon, Aetius begins to feel the weight of his decision. The Senate's whispers grow louder, urging him to act before it is too late. They promise him power, glory, and the chance to rebuild Rome in his image. But there is one catch. He must first remove the one man who stands in his way, Emperor Valentinian. Aetius is faced with an impossible choice: remain loyal to a collapsing empire and a failing emperor, or betray both for the chance to reshape Rome's future. The Senate's offer, an empire of his own, becomes increasingly tempting. They play on his pride, his desire to protect the Roman people, and his growing sense of frustration with the emperor's weakness. They show him that by aligning with them, Aetius could ensure the survival of Rome, but only if he acts decisively and removes Valentinian from power. As Aetius contemplates his next move, a series of carefully orchestrated events unfold. The Senate manipulates his commanders, turning them against one another, sowing distrust and confusion within the ranks. The once loyal officers, now driven by ambition and fear, begin to question Aetius's leadership. Meanwhile, Valentinian, unaware of the conspiracy brewing beneath his feet, continues to alienate those around him. The emperor's inability to act decisively leaves Aetius in a precarious position. His loyalty to the throne is tested, and the more he looks at the crumbling empire, the more he begins to wonder if his loyalty has been misplaced all along. The breaking point comes when Aetius is ordered to lead a military campaign against a friendly Germanic tribe, one that has long been an ally of Rome. It is a strategic move that makes no sense. Why attack an ally when the empire is surrounded by enemies? The Senate, however, insists that the tribe is becoming too powerful, and Aetius, caught between his sense of duty and the growing pressure to act, reluctantly obeys the order. The result is catastrophic. The attack, initially planned as a quick strike, spirals into an all-out battle with Rome's forces clashing with their former allies. The devastation is immense. Trust is shattered, and once loyal Germanic tribes are driven into the arms of Rome's enemies. Aetius, horrified by the destruction he has caused, realizes that the Senate has played him. The campaign was never meant to protect Rome. It was a calculated move to undermine Aetius and weaken the empire's defenses. In the aftermath of the failed campaign, Aetius is left reeling. His once unshakable faith in Rome's military strength has been shattered, and he realizes that he has been manipulated by the very forces he once served. As the truth begins to unfold, Aetius faces a devastating decision. He can either remain loyal to the emperor and try to undo the damage, or he can join the Senate's ranks, accepting their promises of power and influence. As this chapter ends, Aetius stands at a crossroads. His faith in the empire is irrevocably broken, and the empire's fate seems sealed. He must decide whether to embrace the very forces that have betrayed him or continue to fight for a dying empire. His choices will have far-reaching consequences, not just for Rome, but for his own soul. Amidst the political chaos and crumbling defenses of the Roman Empire, a group of scholars, unassuming and largely forgotten by history, stumble upon a discovery that could change the course of the empire's future. In the deepest recesses of Rome's ancient catacombs, hidden beneath layers of dust and time, they unearth a series of ancient texts. Mysterious scrolls inscribed with forgotten knowledge that could either restore the empire to its former glory or unravel it completely. The texts, written in a long-lost language, were originally believed to be nothing more than obscure relics of a bygone age. They were hidden away centuries ago, tucked into forgotten vaults beneath the city. It is said that these texts were created by a group of scholars and mystics who had once held the secret knowledge of the ancient world. Wisdom so powerful that it was thought to be too dangerous for anyone to wield. However, the scholars who stumble upon them now are unaware of the magnitude of their discovery. Led by Dr. Gaius Tullius, a seasoned historian with a thirst for knowledge, the group begins to decipher the text. At first, the language appears indecipherable, filled with cryptic symbols and archaic phrases. Yet, with time and effort, the scholars begin to unravel the meaning behind the words, revealing a chilling revelation. These are not just academic texts, but records of an ancient, highly advanced civilization, one that predated Rome by thousands of years. The texts reveal long-forgotten secrets about science, engineering, and philosophy, but there is one detail that stands out above all else: a warning. The texts describe a cataclysmic event that led to the fall of an ancient empire, an empire that was far more advanced than Rome ever was. The knowledge contained in the text hints at technologies and methods that could potentially restore the Roman Empire or destroy it altogether. But the most unsettling revelation is that the fall of this ancient civilization was no accident. According to the text, their downfall was engineered by a shadowy group of elites, similar to the Veiled Senate, that sought to manipulate history for their own purposes. The ancient civilization had discovered a power too great to control, and in their attempt to harness it, they triggered their own destruction. The very knowledge that could revive Rome also carries the potential to bring about its doom. As the scholars continue to delve deeper into the text, the threat becomes clearer. The knowledge they have uncovered is not merely theoretical. It is practical, actionable knowledge that could give whoever controls it unimaginable power. But with that power comes a cost, a devastating risk that no one in the empire, not even the most powerful generals or senators, could fully comprehend. Dr. Tullius and his team are torn. They understand the importance of what they have found, but they are acutely aware of the dangers it poses. If this knowledge were to fall into the wrong hands, it could spell the end of Rome. But if they keep it hidden, they risk leaving the empire to crumble without a chance for recovery. The scholar's discovery does not remain a secret for long. Word of the ancient text spreads quickly throughout the empire, reaching the ears of both the Veiled Senate and the emperor's inner circle. Soon, powerful factions begin to vie for control of the knowledge. The Senate, ever keen on gaining the upper hand, seeks to harness the power for their own purposes, hoping to secure their dominance over the fractured empire. But Emperor Valentinian, weak and paranoid, fears what the text might reveal about his own reign and desperately wants to keep them from public view. The scholars find themselves caught in the middle of a power struggle between two factions that each want to control the future of Rome, and both of whom are willing to go to any lengths to achieve their goals. As tensions rise, the scholars face an agonizing dilemma. Should they safeguard the knowledge, knowing it could save or doom Rome? Or should they release the text to the public, risking the empire's future in order to expose the truth? The discovery has set off a chain of events that none of them could have predicted, and now they must decide whether to embrace the potential for a new era or destroy the text to prevent their power from falling into the wrong hands. In the final moments of this chapter, Dr. Tullius stands alone in the catacombs, staring at the ancient scrolls. The weight of history presses down on him. The decision he makes in this moment will shape the fate of Rome, and perhaps even the course of history itself. As the dust settles, the audience is left with a chilling question. Will the scholars choose to reveal the knowledge, and if so, what will the consequences be? The balance of power in the empire is shifting, and the ancient secrets hidden beneath the city may be the final key to determining whether Rome rises again or falls forever. As the Roman Empire teeters on the brink of collapse, an invasion looms on the horizon, one that will forever change the course of history. The Visigoths, led by their charismatic king, Alaric, are preparing to march toward Rome. While the Roman citizens fear the barbarian threat, the true nature of the invasion is far more insidious than they realize. This is no mere raid. This is the culmination of a carefully orchestrated plan by the Veiled Senate. The Veiled Senate, whose reach extends deep within the empire's power structure, has secretly been manipulating the situation for years. Their ultimate goal has always been to control the riches of Rome and to seize power in the aftermath of the empire's fall. They see the Visigoth invasion not as a random act of barbarism, but as a strategic move in their quest for dominance. The Senate has been quietly feeding Alaric's forces, providing them with supplies and intelligence, all while ensuring the empire's military leaders are too distracted by internal strife and betrayal to respond effectively. At the heart of the Senate's plan is a deeply cynical realization. If the Visigoths breach the gates of Rome, it will not only devastate the city but also provide a scapegoat for the empire's collapse. As the city is sacked and the emperor's power falters, the Senate can step in, claiming that they were the true protectors of Rome all along. By controlling the narrative, they hope to rebuild the empire under their own rule, with no one the wiser about their covert manipulation. Unbeknownst to both the Senate and the emperor, however, Alaric himself is no simple pawn. A complex character with a mind of his own, Alaric has his own ambitions. Although he has been a valuable ally to the Senate, he is not content to simply play the role of their instrument. As he leads his people toward Rome, Alaric begins to question the motives of those who have been feeding him information. He senses that the Senate's involvement in the invasion may not be as benevolent as they claim. But for Alaric, the invasion of Rome is not just about revenge or conquest. It is also about power. He is determined to seize what he believes should be his, the ultimate control of the Western world. As Alaric's army grows closer to Rome, the political situation inside the empire deteriorates. Emperor Valentinian, already weakened by internal conspiracies and betrayals, is paralyzed by fear and indecision. He knows the Visigoths are at the gates, but he is unsure who is truly behind their advance. The Senate's machinations remain hidden in the shadows, and Valentinian, more concerned with his own survival, is unable to form a coherent strategy to defend the city. Meanwhile, the general who has long been regarded as the empire's greatest military mind, Aetius, finds himself torn. Initially loyal to the Senate and its hidden goals, Aetius begins to see the full scope of the Senate's treachery. As he uncovers evidence of their manipulation of the Visigoth invasion, he is faced with an agonizing choice. Should he warn the emperor and risk the wrath of the Senate, or should he remain silent, knowing that the collapse of Rome may be inevitable? The tension builds as Alaric and his Visigoths march ever closer to the city. Roman defenders, stretched thin and demoralized by constant betrayal, scramble to fortify the capital, but it's clear they are outmatched. Alaric, with his keen military mind and fierce determination, is well prepared. His forces begin to encircle Rome, cutting off supply lines and sowing panic in the streets. The city that once stood as the epitome of power and civilization now faces its greatest test, and the stakes are higher than ever. In the final moments before the invasion, a shocking twist occurs. The Senate sends a secret emissary to Alaric, offering him a formal alliance. They promise him riches and land in exchange for his full cooperation in the destruction of the Roman Empire. Alaric, still unsure of the Senate's true intentions, agrees to meet with the emissary, but in a secretive and tense exchange, he demands more than just material wealth. He seeks a guarantee of power, a kingdom to call his own once Rome falls. But as Alaric prepares to lay siege to Rome, his mind is filled with doubt. He is no longer sure if the Senate's promises are sincere or if they are simply using him as a tool. In this moment of uncertainty, Alaric begins to play his own game. He secretly orders his forces to halt their advance temporarily, while he arranges a final meeting with the Senate. Alaric knows that this invasion is about more than just the sack of Rome. It is about shaping the future of the empire and its people. He must decide whether to remain a mere instrument of the Senate or to seize the power he believes is rightfully his. As the chapter concludes, the stage is set for the invasion. Rome, once the unshakable heart of the ancient world, now faces its impending destruction. But the true nature of the catastrophe that is about to unfold remains shrouded in mystery. Alaric's own ambitions will soon collide with those of the Senate, and the fate of the empire hangs in the balance. Will Rome fall, as history tells us, or is there another force at play, one that could rewrite the past and change the future forever? Rome's collapse is inevitable. The city has fallen, its once grand walls now smoldering ruins, its people scattered or dead. The Visigoths have claimed their victory, sacking the capital in a brutal conquest. Yet, even as the dust settles and the world watches the final chapter of the Roman Empire unfold, a far more insidious game is afoot. From the ashes of the old empire rises a shadowy force. The remnants of the veiled Senate, the secret cabal that engineered Rome's destruction, are now working to reassemble the pieces of a shattered world. The Senate, no longer a group of legislators but a faction bent on controlling the future, begins to pull the strings from behind the scenes. Their ultimate plan? To rule the new world that will emerge from Rome's destruction. Not in the open, but through secret influence and hidden power. The survivors of the Senate, composed of some of the most powerful families in Rome, retreat to a hidden stronghold deep within the mountains of Italy. The remnants of the empire's wealth, its ancient knowledge, and its military strength are all in their hands. But the Senate's unity is fragile. With Rome destroyed and the power vacuum left by the fall of the emperor, rival factions within the Senate start to vie for control. Ambitions are high, and betrayal is a constant undercurrent, as each faction seeks to claim the remnants of the empire's power for themselves. At the same time, a new and unanticipated force begins to emerge. The common people. In the chaos following Rome's fall, the lower classes, once oppressed and ignored, are beginning to rise. Rebel leaders, influenced by the idea of a new society built on the ashes of the old, begin to rally the masses. They see the fall of Rome as an opportunity to break free from centuries of aristocratic rule. The veiled Senate, terrified of losing control, views these uprisings as a serious threat. The Senate knows that to maintain their vision of power, they must suppress this new rebellion. But they also realize they cannot do so openly. If they reveal their true hand too soon, they risk alienating the very people they need to rule. In the midst of this, the remnants of the Roman military under the leadership of General Aetius are scattered and demoralized. Yet Aetius, now a man torn between loyalty to his nation and the growing realization that the Senate has betrayed him, begins to play a dangerous game of his own. While initially a puppet of the Senate, Aetius now sees an opportunity to consolidate his power by aligning himself with the new rebel movements. The military leader knows that if he can unite the fragmented forces within the empire, he might have a chance to create a new order, one that challenges the old system of aristocratic rule and restores Rome's legacy under a new leadership. But Aetius also knows that to do so, he must navigate the intricate web of intrigue spun by the veiled Senate, which will stop at nothing to protect its control. Meanwhile, Alaric, the Visigoth king, is beginning to realize the true extent of the veiled Senate's manipulation. Though he has gained the spoils of war, he sees that the Senate's hidden influence stretches far beyond Rome's borders. The Senate has always played a dangerous game, balancing between the control of Rome and the interests of its many allies. Now, as the world shifts under the weight of Rome's collapse, Alaric begins to ask himself if he can ever trust the Senate again. As he navigates the complexities of his own ambitions, Alaric's decisions will shape the course of history. Will he become a puppet of the Senate, or will he seize his own destiny and carve out a new future for the people of the West? In the hidden chambers of the Senate, the true architects of Rome's destruction meet to plan the next phase of their ambitions. They are a fragmented force now, their influence slowly growing as they play both sides. They continue to influence key decisions through their agents in the post-Roman world, manipulating trade routes, encouraging rebellion, and weakening any faction that might pose a threat to their newfound power. Their ultimate aim is to create a new empire, one built not on the ashes of Rome, but from the manipulation of the common people, the military leaders, and the remnants of the old aristocracy. The Senate's power lies in its secrecy, in its ability to control knowledge and information. It is a power unlike any other, hidden, elusive, and deadly. As the chapter draws to a close, the world is on the brink of a new age. The fall of Rome was just the beginning, and the forces that shaped the empire's demise are now in motion, creating a new order from the ruins. The Senate's ambition is clear, to rebuild, but not as Rome once was. They intend to rule not just the remnants of the empire, but the world that will rise in its place. But even as they begin to consolidate power, the first signs of resistance emerge, forces that threaten to undo everything the Senate has worked for. The fight for control of the post-Roman world is just beginning, and the stakes could not be higher. Amid the chaos and destruction following Rome's fall, a truth lies hidden, locked away from the world. An heir to the once glorious empire, hidden for his own protection. Lucius, a young man with no knowledge of his royal bloodline, lives quietly in the countryside of Italy. Raised by a humble farmer who knows nothing of his true heritage, Lucius has grown up unaware of the legacy he carries in his veins. He is like any other peasant, until the day he is thrust into a conflict that will change the course of his life forever. The story begins as Lucius, a simple young man, encounters a mysterious stranger. This stranger, a former member of the Senate's inner circle, has been living in hiding, waiting for the right moment to reveal a secret that could restore the fallen empire. His arrival in Lucius's life is not by chance. Lucius's bloodline is the key to rebuilding what Rome has lost, and the Senate's old enemies are keen to stop him before he even understands what he is. Lucius's journey begins with the revelation that he is the descendant of one of the most powerful families in Rome, a family that had once been deeply intertwined with the Senate and the emperor's court. His father, a high-ranking senator, had seen the looming danger of the Senate's corruption and chose to hide his son away, fearing that any threat to the Senate would also threaten his bloodline. Before his death, Lucius's father placed him under the care of a distant relative, far away from the intrigues and dangers of Rome's political landscape. As Lucius is drawn into the web of political intrigue, he begins to learn of the forces that have been pulling the strings of Rome's destruction. He learns of the veiled Senate's role in the empire's collapse, and of the factions vying for control of what remains of Rome's wealth and power. Lucius, a naive country boy at first, is thrust into a world of dangerous politics, secret plots, and betrayal. As his knowledge of Rome's secrets grows, so does his understanding of his own destiny. However, Lucius's newfound position comes with its own set of dangers. The veiled Senate, still operating in the shadows, soon learns of his existence. Desperate to keep their grip on power, they send agents to eliminate him. The Senate knows that if Lucius ascends to the throne, they will lose everything. He represents not only the last hope for the restoration of the Roman Empire, but also a powerful symbol of the old ways, an obstacle they cannot afford to ignore. Lucius is forced to flee, leaving his idyllic life behind and venturing deeper into the remnants of the empire. Along the way, he encounters a group of rebels who are fighting to overthrow the remaining aristocracy and create a new world in the ashes of Rome. Led by a charismatic figure named Aurelia, the rebels believe in the promise of a new empire, one that is free of corruption, a society built on justice and equality for all. Aurelia, seeing Lucius as the key to restoring Rome's power, pledges her allegiance to him, offering her protection in exchange for his leadership. But Aurelia's true motives are unclear. Does she seek to use Lucius as a pawn to further her own cause, or does she genuinely believe in the restoration of the empire? As Lucius comes to terms with the reality of his bloodline, he also begins to understand the responsibilities that come with it. He is not just a symbol, he is the potential key to restoring the empire's lost glory. But as he moves closer to uncovering the secrets of his past, he also learns that the true legacy of Rome may not be what he expects. The ancient texts that have been passed down through his family contain knowledge not only of Rome's greatest triumphs, but also of its darkest secrets. Secrets that could either empower him to rule or destroy everything he hopes to rebuild. In a shocking twist, Lucius discovers that his father was not just a senator, but one of the founders of the veiled Senate itself. His father had once been a part of the very group that orchestrated Rome's downfall, but before his death, he realized the devastating consequences of his actions. In a final act of redemption, he hid Lucius away from the Senate's reach, hoping that his son might one day restore the empire and undo the damage caused by the Senate's manipulation. As Lucius grapples with this revelation, he begins to question everything he once believed. He is no longer just a man seeking revenge or power. He is the key to Rome's resurrection. But with the Senate still determined to control the remnants of the empire, Lucius must navigate a treacherous landscape filled with danger, deception, and divided loyalties. The choice before him is clear: to embrace his birthright and fight for Rome's future, or to walk away from the legacy that has brought nothing but destruction. The chapter ends with Lucius standing at a crossroads. As he prepares to lead a new rebellion against the Senate, he must confront the terrifying truth. Even if he succeeds in restoring the empire, there will be a cost, one that may change the course of history forever. The future of Rome lies in his hands, and every decision he makes could be the difference between rebirth and total annihilation. As Rome lies in ruins, its once mighty empire fractured beyond repair, Lucius stands on the precipice of destiny. The remnants of the veiled Senate, having weathered the collapse, now scramble to consolidate their power, each faction vying for control of what is left. But the true mastermind behind Rome's destruction has remained hidden until now. Lucius, having weathered numerous betrayals and struggles, is finally prepared to confront the veiled Senate and their dark machinations. The rebel forces united under his banner have made significant progress in reclaiming key cities, and Lucius has the support of the people. Aurelia, the leader of the rebel faction, remains by his side, still determined to restore the empire to its former glory. But in the chaos of revolution, Lucius has come to realize something far more unsettling. The true threat to Rome's future does not come from the remnants of the Senate, but from an even more unexpected source. In a moment of clarity, Lucius learns that the trusted advisor who had guided the emperor during the final years of the empire's collapse, the enigmatic and unassuming Praetorian prefect, Titus Cornelius, is the true architect behind Rome's downfall. Titus had always been in the shadows, quietly advising the emperor while subtly undermining the empire's strength. His role in the downfall of the empire was not just that of a political figure. He had been the puppet master, pulling the strings behind every move made by the Senate and the rebel factions. Titus's motivations had never been clear. To the Senate, he appeared loyal, but to Lucius, he had always been a mysterious figure, lurking in the background of every political shift. His role as an advisor had given him unprecedented influence, and it was under his guidance that the first cracks in the empire's stability appeared. Yet no one suspected that his ultimate goal was to reshape Rome, not by rebuilding it, but by recreating it in his own image. A vision of absolute control and dominance. Lucius uncovers a hidden chamber deep within the imperial palace, an ancient vault filled with forbidden texts and relics. Among these, he finds the final piece of the puzzle, a letter written by Titus himself, outlining his ultimate plan. Titus's vision was one of an empire that would rise from the ashes, not in the name of the people, but in the name of a new order, one where power was concentrated in the hands of an elite few, with Titus as its undisputed ruler. The truth is staggering. Titus had never intended to save the empire from the veiled Senate or the barbarians. His plan had always been to orchestrate Rome's destruction so he could build a new empire from the ground up, one that would bend to his will. The invasion by the Visigoths, the civil wars, the economic collapse, all of it was carefully orchestrated by Titus. He had even used Lucius's own heritage to manipulate the factions that fought to restore Rome, ensuring that the old empire would crumble, leaving a vacuum for him to fill. In a devastating twist, Lucius realizes that the very forces he trusted, including Aurelia, have been part of Titus's plan from the beginning. Aurelia, with her charisma and idealism, was never meant to lead Rome's revival. She had been an unwitting pawn, placed in Lucius's path to guide him into fulfilling Titus's designs. The rebels, who once seemed like Rome's last hope, are revealed to be mere instruments in a far larger game. With the shocking revelation of Titus's true intentions, Lucius faces an impossible choice: join Titus and embrace a new vision of empire under his control, or rebel against the very system he was meant to restore, knowing that the cost of such a rebellion could be the end of civilization itself. As Lucius prepares to confront Titus, he is confronted with his own doubts. The path he once believed in, to restore Rome, now feels like a hollow pursuit. The empire, as he knew it, is gone, and its restoration would mean resurrecting the very system that brought it to ruin. The rebels, the Senate, even his own bloodline, all have their part in the destruction of Rome. The question now is not whether Rome should be restored, but whether anything can be rebuilt without falling into the same cycle of betrayal, corruption, and ambition. In the final confrontation, Lucius stands face to face with Titus, the man who had orchestrated Rome's destruction for his own gain. Titus, revealing the full extent of his power, offers Lucius a choice: join him and rule the new empire together, or watch as the remnants of the old world fall apart in chaos. Lucius, torn by the weight of his decisions, must make a choice that will define not just his future, but the future of the entire world. In a shocking moment of clarity, Lucius rejects Titus's offer, understanding that no matter how tempting power might seem, it is never worth the cost of a corrupt and oppressive empire. With a single final act of defiance, Lucius brings down Titus's reign, destroying the last hope for a new empire and ensuring that the old world will never be reborn. As the dust settles, Lucius is left with nothing but the knowledge that Rome, along with its glory, its power, and its darkness, has been consigned to history. The final scene shows Lucius walking away from the ruins of the palace, the weight of his decisions heavy on his shoulders. He knows that the world will never be the same, and that the legacy of Rome, both its triumphs and its failures, will echo throughout history, shaping the course of civilization for centuries to come. The story ends with an unsettling thought. Even in the ashes of the greatest empire the world has ever known, there will always be those who seek to rebuild, to reshape the world in their image no matter the cost.